quick thank you to our sponsors for making this podcast possible. They keep this show free to listen to. Hey there, if you need a little help getting your kids the daily vitamins they need, I've got something to share that will help you as we all head back to school, and it fits easily into your morning routine. Between packing lunches, ensuring everyone's homework, and then navigating the morning hustle, getting our kids to take their vitamins can be a challenge. Well, let me introduce you to my new morning lifesaver, Little Critters Gummy Vitamins. Even my teenage daughters love them. Most kids think they're having a special treat, but I know they get the essential nutrients their growing bodies need. It's peace of mind for me and total yum for them, even if they don't admit it. Did you know Little Critters is the pediatrician recommended kids multivitamin gummy brand? It's true. And it's the perfect stress-free way to kick off the day. So why not make your mornings a little smoother? Shop Little Critters Gummy Vitamins now and start your school year off with a smile. Shop now at the link in the show notes. Hi, I'm Michelle, a mother of 2 teens. 13 years ago, I traded in punishments and rewards for connection. Now I prioritize relationship over behaviors, utilize play as a parenting tool, and set limits with empathy instead of consequences. Each week, I share my journey and interview clients, experts, and followers. Thanks for joining me on the Peace and Parenting podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the Peace and Parenting podcast. I'm Michelle and I'm back again, and I have an Instagram follower who has a parenting dilemma, and we're going to get into it. Welcome, Melissa, to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much for having me. I am Melissa. I live in Pennsylvania. I have 2 daughters. They are 15 and 12, and we are in the thick of technology and social media and screen time, and I'm here for help.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into it. 12 and 15. So your girls are exact same age difference that mine are. So I've been exactly where you are. And it's not easy, this technology thing. I wish we could just abolish it.
It's tricky because there are positives. I mean, I wouldn't be here talking to you if I didn't have social media. So, and also I've learned so much from you on social media. So there's that side of it. But when your brain is not fully developed and you're trying to form real life connections, it makes it a little more difficult.
It's really hard. And I think even when your brain's developed, I mean, I find myself in my bed scrolling, and 45 minutes have gone by and I've done literally nothing. I don't know what I've done.
Absolutely.
So it is, I don't want to say it's addictive. I mean, the research does say that can be true, but it's enthralling. And I think we get sucked in, both us and our kids.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, do we want to get into specifics around this idea, or should we talk more globally about it?
It's up to you. I have done a lot of research and read books and articles and followed accounts that deal with this. So I feel like I know what people are saying out there. I'm more interested in your take on the day-to-day management of devices and keeping the family happy and healthy.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start then big picture, and then we'll get into the minutia of it after we talk big picture. So social media, phones, technology, it's not going anywhere. It really isn't. If anything, it's ramping up. And to think that our kids are going to live in a world without technology is just unrealistic unless we're really willing to say you're not having anything. But if you've already given your kids iPads, like your kids have iPads, if you've already given your kids phones, then you've already succumbed to the idea that you're willing to subject them to it. And we have to take responsibility for that.
Absolutely. And we have a unique situation that our kids go to sleepaway camp for 7 weeks in the summer where they do not have technology. So they know a world without it, where everyone is without it. And I think that's what makes the difference. If they're the only ones in their class at home without it, it's painful.
Totally.
If all the kids don't have it, it's wonderful.
Right. But that is not our reality. Our reality is not sleepaway camp, unfortunately. My daughter goes to sleepaway camp for 2 weeks and they don't have it. And that it's just, I wish that was our reality, but they're on their iPads for school.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
No, it's not.
It's nice for them to know what that feels like so that they can feel what the other side feels like when they've been looking at their screen for a while and their body feels icky.
I love how you just said that. And I think that is one of the things that we want to make sure our kids feel. And we want to make sure that they notice that, oh, I've been on my thing for a long time. I do feel icky. I do feel dysregulated. But if we don't give them the freedom to do that, they never get there and they never notice that. And so if we are too strict in our rules and our guidelines around phones and electronic use, then we create more desire for it. And when we create more desire for it, we get a kid who will be sneaky, who will lie, who will try to get on it when they're not supposed to, who will break the rules because they feel like it's being withheld from them.
Yes.
And they do that with sugar. We can see that with sugar. We can see that with bedtime. We can see that with a lot of things where
any restriction.
Yeah, scarcity causes desire. So we want to be really careful that we're not causing extra desire on top of a desire that already exists. And I see parents get really strict and it actually backfires.
Mm-hmm. That's what I don't want to happen. And I don't want the majority of my relationship with them to be managing the devices.
Yeah.
That should be the last thing we're talking about.
Exactly. And policing the devices is never fun at all. However, we have to really, be mindful about what apps do they have, what controls are on those apps, and are we, talking about online safety with our kids? We can't just give them these, powerful devices without discussions around, hey, the guy you're speaking to on Roblox, he could be 47 in a hotel room in Chicago.
Yes, we do talk about that. I think that's one of the main things is to just keep that conversation open. And I mean, we make mistakes online too. And to share with them, I think sets a good example that these things can happen to anyone, but hopefully they're always questioning a little bit.
Yep.
Because you don't know who's on the other end of a chat
you shouldn't, there's things like don't wear your school logo in your if you have your camera on, only be in private so that you don't have, these extra people subjected to you on these social media sites. Like there's social media hygiene. And I think that we are responsible for having the discussion and keeping the discussion open. However, that discussion will not work unless we live in a connected home and we're not using threats and bribes and punishments and consequences. Because if a child feels like there's consequences, even if it's not around, the electronic use, it won't matter to them. They can't translate that. So if they do something wrong online and you have a house full of punishments, they might not tell you because they're afraid of being punished. Even if you said, well, I won't punish you if you tell me what's going online, it doesn't translate for them. Punishment is punishment. So I think that's another piece too, is like, we can't really help them fully unless we're living in a connected world.
I agree. And that is what's so scary, because once they get into that situation, if they find themselves in a lie, it can just snowball and snowball. And that is where their health is at risk.
Yeah, so true. And the research says that it is horrible, right? That electronics are horrible. There's no denying that. It's not good for them. But also what some research says is that the most protective thing you can give your child is a relationship with you. Because that way they know you're safe. And if something does go awry, you're their first point of contact because they trust you. So I think electronics are important to talk about, but it's also important to talk about the relationship that you're building with your children and making sure that that is solid. Because if that is solid, you're protecting them against early teen pregnancy, you're protecting them against drug and alcohol use and abuse, you're protecting them against social situations with their friends, you're protecting them against a lot of things because you're trustworthy. So that, I believe, is more important than anything we can do around electronics.
Yes. And that's where it's up to every individual family to have those conversations. And it's helpful when your friends' families are of the same thought that you are and have the same values. So I find that there's strength in numbers here with this particular issue. But as you said, the main relationship is most important.
It is. But we get into this fear, right? Because we see the statistics, we're reading all the books where, oh my gosh, what do we do? We can't give them the phone. And we start to freak out. And then when we freak out, we start to parent from fear. And when we start to parent from fear, often we go to control. How can I control their use? How can I control them? How can I control what I'm giving them, what I'm not giving them? Because I'm scared. And I think that's a really hard place to parent from.
Mm-hmm. I'm so happy I'm talking to you because that is my initial instinct. And I've worked really hard over the years to not go there. But that control, man, it's hard to avoid.
And this particular issue, like you could be this beautifully connected, empathic, loving parent. I've seen it a million times, but then all of a sudden the electronics come up and they're like, nope, we're not getting it. We're you can only have an hour a day. Like you get really worked up because you're scared that you're damaging your child.
Right. And there's really, nobody's helping you. There's no regulations out there. Like when they're learning to drive, they have to put in a certain amount of hours, have a permit, pass a test, do this, that, and the other thing before they get access. And here some parents are just handing their child the latest iPhone and saying, have a great time. I love you.
Yeah, it's scary. It's really scary. We are going to take a short break from our show to hear from our sponsors. Without their sponsorship, I wouldn't be able to bring you the Peace and Parenting podcast free of charge. So I'll see you back in just a few minutes. Hey there, if you need a little help getting your kids all the daily vitamins they need, I've got something to share that will help you as we all head back to school, and it fits easily into your morning routine. Between packing lunches, ensuring everyone's homework, and then navigating the morning hustle, getting our kids to take their vitamins can be a challenge. Well, let me introduce you to my new morning lifesaver, Little Critters Gummy Vitamins. Even my teenage daughters love them. Most kids think they're having a special treat, but I know they get all the essential nutrients their growing bodies need. It's peace of mind for me and total yum for them, even if they don't admit it. Did you know Little Critters is the pediatrician recommended kids multivitamin gummy brand? It's true. And it's the perfect stress-free way to kick off the day. So why not make your mornings a little smoother? Shop Little Critters Gummy Vitamins now and start your school year off with a smile. Shop now at the link in the show notes. Hey there, if you need a little help getting your kids the daily vitamins they need, I've got something to share that will help you as we all head back to school, and it fits easily into your morning routine. Between packing lunches, ensuring everyone's homework, and then navigating the morning hustle, getting our kids to take their vitamins can be a challenge. Well, let me introduce you to my new morning lifesaver, Little Critters Gummy Vitamins. Even my teenage daughters love them. Most kids think they're having a special treat, but I know they get the essential nutrients their growing bodies need. It's peace of mind for me and total yum for them, even if they don't admit it. Did you know Little Critters is the pediatrician recommended kids multivitamin gummy brand? It's true. And it's the perfect stress-free way to kick off the day. So why not make your mornings a little smoother? Shop Little Critters Gummy Vitamins now and start your school year off with a smile. Shop now at the link in the show notes. Are you a plant freak like me? Do you have them on every shelf and table? Do you talk to your plants as if they are your babies? I do. I'm obsessed with plants. That's why I started using Palm Street, the live online marketplace for plants of all types. It's a plant lover's dream. And what's more convenient than having our new little buddies shipped directly to our homes? I'm a certified plant lover. In fact, my girls think I love my plant buddies more than I love them sometimes. Plants are how homes feel alive and vibrant. Every home needs plants. That's why Palm Street is the Peace and Parenting podcast sponsor. Palm Street is the best live shopping app for the plant lover community. They sell rare plants, crystals, ceramics, and other unique goods. Looking to add a new plant to your home? Get the Palm Street app. New users get a $5 app credit, 10% off their order, up to $6 off shipping. So go to the show notes and check the direct link. Okay, back to the show. So having said all of that, I think that has to be the backdrop of how we think about electronics, because if we don't think about it in this backdrop, then it's easy to get stuck in the minutia before you understand like the bigger ideas around it. And we just had this discussion we have a group coaching program. And last night we had a meeting and I led it. And we had a lot of stories. It was very interesting. Two stories I think are interesting. One guy about my age, I think late 40s, he said his parents he didn't have a television growing up. No television at all. And so he says to this day, he cannot regulate his screen time because he never had early childhood experiences with it where he got to really learn developmentally what was appropriate and what wasn't. I thought that was interesting. I have a friend who is she's an electronics guru for kids. And she really believes in not giving them anything until they're like 14 years old, till they go into high school. Her kids are my friend's neighbor, and her children are constantly at my friend's house because they have all the electronics. The kids never want to be at home. They always want to be at the friend's house. They're knocking on the door at 6 a.m. so that they can play video games, so that they can be on iPads. And it's created this very strange dynamic. And so I think that's it. Those things can really happen, and we don't want to get stuck there.
Right. And all those parents had the best intentions and thought they were doing the best for their children, and interesting consequences.
Yes. So keeping that in mind, now let's get into the minutia of exactly what you're talking about with your sweet daughters.
Okay. So they both started with iPads around age 11. And if your kids are the same age spread, it's so hard. The older one gets it, the younger one wants it, they have to wait, yada, yada. So iPads at age 11 so that they could group text with friends, because that was important for connection. We were in COVID at the time, so it was even felt more important. And that was kind of the training wheels for my husband and I to see how they responded and if they could control. And the older one, I would say, they're actually both very aware, but the older one will regulate more easily. So we were comfortable giving her a phone, although she started middle school, 7th grade, without a phone. She was one of a handful of kids. She didn't complain very much about it. However, the first week of school, the teacher said, okay, get out your phone to do this quiz or work on this project. And all of a sudden she was outed.
How could she? Okay, we don't need to get into that.
I know. So that thankfully has changed, I think. But that was rough. That I felt betrayed.
But
she ended up with a phone halfway through 7th grade, and it was okay. Now the younger one has just gotten a phone. It only has texting and calling. It is an iPhone, but it's very old.
Right.
And we're kind of just playing it by ear and seeing how it goes. With the older one, we found a contract online and went through all the bullet points and had her sign it, and we're a little more controlling about it, I guess. And with the second, of course, you're a little more easygoing because you've learned from the first. But that's where we are now. However, my younger one, is taking it out in the neighborhood when she plays, which is great because she can tell me if she's going to be 5 minutes late, but not great because, like you said, the kids who don't have it are grabbing it away from her because they're so intrigued and they don't have access at home, and it's a thing. So that's just happened this week, and I need to check in with my neighbor parents to see what they're seeing on the other end. That's where we are right now.
Okay. Maybe that's a good discussion to have with your daughter too. It's like, so you went in I'm assuming she told you that someone was grabbing her phone.
Yes.
Yeah. And so then it begs the question, well, what do you think about that, honey? I don't know what she'd say. Well, I don't want them grabbing my phone. I know. I don't like that either. How can we avoid that?
Yes.
And then have her come up with some solutions, and maybe she'll do them and maybe she won't. And maybe it'll just be food for thought for her. And maybe it'll just be part of a bigger process that's happening. But I think it's always being curious about whatever's going on in our kids' lives. Doesn't have to be phone, can be anything. But asking a lot of questions at this age can be really helpful because you get them to think about their own problem, and we really want them to problem solve it. We don't want to tell them, okay, you can't take your phone out when you go play anymore. We don't want to control them. But we do want them to think about it. So I think asking the questions is important.
Yes. And we do have several like no phone zones, no phones at dinner.
Yep.
They all get charged in our bedroom at night. So I can see that they're lined up and not off in a bedroom with a kid staying up till 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, the only other issue we come up with is when the older one is, we're all in the car, she'll be texting friends. And then the younger one says, get off your phone. So I don't know. I don't want to create more no phone zones, but how would you handle that?
In the car is does the car a no phone zone or
No?
It's a phone zone.
Yeah.
Okay. But the little one can now text her friends, right?
Right.
So why is she bothering her sister about it?
I think she just wants her sister's attention. Yeah.
Well, that's more of a sibling fight than it is a phone issue. So I would stop right there when she says, get off your phone. And I would say, oh, hey, what's happening back here? Even though you know exactly what's happening, I would say to each of them, I would say to the younger one, what's happening? She's like, I want my sister to play with me. I want her to talk to me. She's on her phone and she's texting her friends. Oh, interesting. Okay, I understand. Then you ask the older one, what's going on here? And she might say, well, I'm texting my friends. I don't want to hang out with her. Well, honey, did you hear what your sister said? She wants to hang out with you. And now you get them to talk about their conflict and help them resolve it. And you become the coach in it. Oh, well, she doesn't want to get off. She wants to text her friends. And maybe the little one has to be okay with that. She doesn't get to just tell her sister, get off, and because I want to play with you. And maybe then it's okay to be there for the little sister. Oh, I know she really doesn't want to get off. I understand, and have empathy and understanding for her in that moment. Or maybe it works out a different way. It just depends on what happens, what transpires in this like coaching. It'll be like a little mini coaching, conflict resolution coaching for them. So I don't think that's necessarily a phone issue, but more like a sibling.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think I always see the phone as the villain if it's involved in the conflict.
Right. So, if it wasn't there, then they would be playing and blah, blah, blah.
Right. Or if it was something else, if she was drawing and not paying attention to her sister, I wouldn't have the same reaction.
Right. You're mad. You want it to stop. You want her to play with the sister. And so this is the thing with the phone. It heightens everything. It really does. It creates more fear for us. I think it's fear. I don't know what it is actually, but I think it's fear.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
For me, at least.
For me too. I mean, I'm the same way. I don't like my kids on the phone. The other thing I like to think though too is like, first of all, they're in school for 7 hours. So they're not on their phone they don't have their phones for 7 hours. That's a long time. They also don't have their phones when they're sleeping. So we're talking about, a finite amount of time they're on their phones. Let's hope that they are playing with their friends. Let's hope they're hanging out with us. Let's hope they're doing special time. Let's hope that maybe they have a sport or an activity. So really thinking about their life as a whole and not saying, oh, they're always on their phone. Because they're not. They really aren't.
I think you just feel it more in the summer when they're not at school for those hours.
Yes.
Yes. But definitely in that car scenario, I've tried to get better at asking, who are you texting? What's going on? Is it really important? Because sometimes it is, or sometimes it feels that way to her.
Yeah. Yeah. Or does she have to tell you? Is it her business what she's doing? I think that the sibling thing is more like sometimes we want the younger one to stop complaining, or stop whining or stop upsetting the situation. And so often we require the oldest one or the other child, it isn't always the oldest one or the other child to accommodate. But it's not their job. And it's okay for the little one to be bored.
Oh, my older daughter's going to love you for saying that. That happens a lot.
Yeah, that's a good thing to work on, I think, is that it's not her responsibility to entertain her little sister. And sometimes we have to let the little sister be mad. And then we come to them with empathy. I know she doesn't want to play with you right now. That's so hard. I get it. And let her be pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, back to electronics. What else?
Yeah. What else? I think you've clarified in my mind that my issues are not all electronics based. It just amplifies other issues.
Yeah.
Did you know that already?
I mean, no, but I think that seems that you're not alone. And I think that happens with all of us. But I think the electronics is like the good scapegoat.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. It sounds like you guys have a good rein on the electronics, to be honest, that you have a good balance between allowing them to have it and having some rules around it. And nobody's like feeling, like they're not getting enough. It feels like you guys have it in control. I think it's more just you wanted to put yourself at ease.
Mm-hmm. I feel better about it now that they're home. I think when I wrote into you, they were still at camp. And that's always a time when I feel like I need to revamp everything. And I knew that the second phone was coming and how was that going to change things? So again, fear on my part, but I spent time thinking about it and came up with a plan that is working, I think, for now. So
yeah. And that plan will continue to morph as they get older because, when they're in high school, they pretty much have free reign eventually.
Yes, driving is our next hurdle. And that will be something totally new too.
Yeah. And it's like as long as the connection is flowing and you're coming with that, I don't think you can navigate all of this with that.
That brings me peace of mind.
Yes, you got it. You're doing great, Melissa.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on the show. I really do appreciate it. And thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me.